Yeah, the game's not gone yet. Guys and girls, this is the Adidas Predator Precision remake in the original black, white, red colorway that brings back a lot of vibes, for good and bad, to be honest, from 25 years ago. Now, the thing is that, if I'm being completely honest with you, you should probably watch this video before you make a final decision on whether you should buy this or not. Of course, if you just want it, there's a link to Unisport right up there in the description. But first, let me tell you everything you need to know about it. Now, the thing with the Predator Precision is that, to me, it brings back a lot, and I am talking a lot, of childhood memories. So I was 11, 12 back when it came out, and back then, this was absolute peak. We're talking Beckham, Zidane, Del Piero rocking these, and while it might arguably be a little bit behind the Accelerator and the Mania in terms of how iconic it is, to me, it is still very much an iconic design. Now, the OG here, which I have with me, continued the trend from the Accelerator, but got some slightly faster looking, maybe a little bit more wavy stripes that went all the way around the heel, which to this day still looks fantastic. Obviously, it also got these slightly more nimble, brush-inspired SL rubber striking elements that also acted as the inspiration for the elements on the Predator 24. Really nice. And also, of course, you had this iconic fold-over tongue, which, very revolutionary, by the way, had brought in a Velcro closure to ensure that it actually stayed down. I mean, tears were shed back then, and it's not necessarily groundbreaking stuff by today's standards, but back then, coming after the Accelerator that had nothing, so the tongue was just flapping about, this was a big deal, especially for all the die-hard Beckham fans that wanted to pull the tongue down as far as physically possible and actually have it stay there. Just look at it.
Oh, would you look at that?
So what Adidas have done here in, I want to say, almost typical fashion is to go as close to the blueprint, the DNA, and the feel of the original while still modernizing it enough to actually make it playable by today's standards. So this one, the remake, is made in Germany by the fine craftsmen and women at the Scheinfeld factory, which is always a win, by the way. And what it does is to actually swap the K-leather upper from the OG for a calf leather one, which might sound like a problem to some, but it's not. I'm gonna get back to that later. What it also does is to give you slightly enlarged SL rubber fins compared to the original, which I'm definitely not mad about. Feels very nice. And also, in the name of making it feel more modern and playable, they've actually lowered the profile and made it a little bit more sleek compared to the original. Again, a little bit of a win in my book. And in the same vein, they've also used the current Predator Elite outsole, A, because they didn't have the mold for the old one, and also B, because this is way lighter and what makes it playable today. But the stripes are the same, the tongue is the same, and I would say the bulk and tank-like feeling is also the same, I guess. Look, it's even got the little equipment logo on the heel as well. And I guess it's not so little anymore, but I mean, still works. And now, right off the bat, you get many of the same characteristics in the remake as you got in the OG. In fact, when you wear both, you feel that it definitely has the same solidity around your foot that you got 25 years ago. Now, of course, given the fact that the SL rubber fins here, they take up a lot of real estate on the upper, is not, I wouldn't call it buttery soft, but when you squeeze it with your fingers here, you can definitely tell that there's enough softness and enough, it's malleable enough to ensure that it doesn't feel restrictive in any way when you put it on your foot, even straight out of the box. And when you break these bad boys in, yeah, slippers. I'm just gonna put it like that. The heel has a good amount of width to it, and you can say the same thing about the forefoot here, where both width and height-wise, there is a lot of volume in the forefoot. And that same thing actually goes for the midfoot here, which is wide. Particularly, of course, if you go for the Beckham style, you don't use the top eyelet and you pull the tongue as far down as possible. Then the opening just becomes like, there's a lot of volume there, and I think it's safe to say that this fits wide feet like a dream. You have a lot of space to work with. But yeah, voluminous, let's call it that. But even if you have in fact used the top eyelet and maybe even gone for the runner's loop like I have, because I kinda have to, but more on that later, well, the midfoot still just has a lot of bulk and body to it. It is quite a thick upper package like on the OG, so I can't really complain about that, but you just feel that there is a lot of football boot around you. It has this presence where you actually really feel the boot around your foot. Unlike today, I'm not gonna call the boots flimsy, but they are just sleek and more nimble and, well, a lot thinner than this bad boy. Is that something that will be for everyone? Oh, absolutely not. But if you're into the feeling of having a little bit more like weight behind your boots and, you know, body to your boots, and maybe also have a really wide, flat foot that just needs a bit more volume inside your boots, I think you'll really like the fit and feel of these. And speaking of the fit, by the way, I've gone true to size in these with my regular UK 6.5, Euro 40, Japan 25 for Adidas. And while I could arguably have gone down with some benefits in this one, especially when we're talking like the width and the heel, I think for the length, it would have been a little bit too tight and at least have required more breaking time than I would have cared for. So I'd say as a rule of thumb, go true to size, but if you have a really slim foot like me, you could probably squeeze into half a size smaller. But when it comes to the performance and the feeling on pitch, this feels absolutely nothing like your modern Predator. And actually that's a bit of a lie, because when it comes to shooting, there is a lot of shared characteristics between this and the modern Predators in the sense that, well, it's probably best described as, I would say, shooting just feels fun. It feels unique in these, not only because there's just a lot of weight behind when you strike the ball, it feels so powerful, you can just whack the ball, not feel a thing, and you just feel like you've just, you know, put Thor's hammer through it, and it's just, that's a lot of fun. Obviously, you also get a metric ton of grip on the ball. Quite a similar feeling to what you got in the Predator Elite 24. So that's really nice, where you get the sensation that while it won't turn you into Beckham and make you put it top corner every time, it does give you this tool to apply a bit more swerve on the ball. And that's a really nice feeling. However, like I talked about before, the general thickness of the upper and the bulk of the boot also means that if I was to play a match, I'd probably more prefer, you know, actions where I would strike the ball, shoot, pass, and all that stuff, rather than be dribbling a lot. Because while it's definitely not as brick-like as I thought it would be, it's also not the most nimble thing on planet Earth. And if I was to dribble a lot in a match, I'd probably prefer something more low profile and a lot more nimble than this. But I mean, in terms of striking, it's a lot of fun. But of course also, performance is also lockdown. And the midfoot lockdown is not fantastic, which is a brilliant segue to what I'm going to talk about next. Because with Adidas using the synthetic leather heel liner that is on the slippery side, and also of course this construction and shape in the midfoot that more or less looks like an opera singer about to go into some seriously high notes. Well, the boot's ability to kind of like push your foot down on the plate and safely into the heel, lock it in place, well, it's not outstanding, I'll be honest. Now, if you use the top eyelet and do the runner's loop and wear some pretty grippy grip socks, I got the lockdown up to being serviceable. But if lockdown is something you prioritize, you love that really locked-in sensation in the heel, maybe this is not the boot you're looking for.
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
These aren't the droids we're looking for.
And personally, I think that I would have preferred the remake here to be ever so slightly, well, less like the original. And I know that's a cool thing, and it's a drum I've been banging for years, like, oh, make it 100% true to the original, that's what we want. But maybe the thing is that when the original seems to be a little bit outdated when it comes to things like lockdown and fit in the midfoot and all that stuff, well, maybe they could have hit a slightly better balance, for me at least. See, the thing is that with my brain getting used to more nimble modern boots that are really thin and sit very close to the foot, getting into this and really truly enjoying it had turned out to be a little bit of a challenge. And again, it will please some people a lot. But for me, to be able to rock this every week, maybe they could have made the opening in the midfoot a little less open and just given us a slightly thinner upper package. That would have gone a long way and still made it feel like a Predator precision. But again, that's just me. And now I'm stuck. God, what the? There we go. I meant that. And I have one last thing, which I know is pretty stupid to complain about, but the stripes on the heel and the fact that they go below the heel counter so you can't really see them all that well. Again, I know how stupid it sounds while I'm saying this, but to me, it was one of the most iconic things about the OG Predator Precision. And now you've just, like, it's not just, yeah. So does it matter? No, not one bit, but still, it matters a little bit. However, if I take a bit of a step back and look at the larger picture, I think Adidas have gotten away with this quite well, at least in terms of making a Predator Precision remake that feels really authentic to the OG. And it might not be for me because of that looser fit and the bulk, but it also commits to that slightly more powerful, really grippy sensation. And I'll say it this way, if you've been missing the OG, well, it's back. And that's a cool thing. And yes, 300 euros is a lot of money, but it's also a very unique sensation on the market right now. And again, if you missed it, it's a really good experience. And just look at it.
Oh, would you look at that?
It looks so good. And what I also just want to say is that it is, I mean, infinitely better than this hot garbage that we got a couple of years back. So that's very, very nice. And actually, it might not be, in my book at least, like up there with the 2020 Japan Blue Predator Mania or the 2010 F50 AD0 remake that we just got, or even the, you know, the Legacy of Speed F50 AD0s that we got. But it's a very, very good remake, and I appreciate that. But tell me what you think in the comment section right down below. Remember that if you want to buy it, well, the link's in the description. And with those words, well, don't forget to subscribe, and then I'll be out of here signing off. Cheerio.